tear in my eyes. Well, now I'm rising, and you can't bring me down. You can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. My feet have come too far for you to tie them to the ground. You can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. Set my sights on where I'm going at. Ain't turning back around. You can't stop me.
Good morning, YouTubers. I'm coming to the end of a bit of a 600-mile road trip. So first day I did 300 miles on the 890, stayed at my mum's for a day, and then came back and did about 270 miles in a day, and then just heading back home today. And that'd be useful to just have a review of how the bike has been on, you know, a much longer journey. It's about a 600-mile round trip, and it involves lots of different sorts of roads, the motorways, dual carriageways like this, big sweeping A roads, and also some twisty roads which I chose to take. And I really wanted to see what this bike was like on a long journey where you sit in the saddle for lots of hours and see how you get on. And I was really pleasantly surprised. The first part of the journey was about 2 hours on quite a busy motorway, and I was a bit concerned, a bit worried about how that was going to be on this bike. The lack of wind protection, not much fairing, the lower screen, and it worked incredibly well. And up to about 75 miles an hour. I obviously don't go any quicker than that. Up to about 75, it was very settled, very comfortable, and the wind blast was actually fairly alright, predictable, fairly steady. There wasn't too much buffeting. And I was really pleasantly surprised by that, quite reassured that had happened. And then as we got into Wales, we got onto the A roads and the twisties, and that day I spent probably about 6.5 hours in the saddle, doing about 300 miles. So a long day, and I got to the end of it and I felt really okay. I didn't have any aches, any pains, and I remember doing it before on the 1290 Adventure S, and I did sort of get quite achy towards the end of the day. My shoulders were aching and it felt like quite a hard work day, whereas this bike, and I'm not sure if it's just because it's a bit lighter, but it felt absolutely fine at the end of that day, and I felt like I could have carried on riding. And the lovely thing about doing that 6-hour journey was that you get into the zone. I think sometimes when we go out for an hour, we're thinking about where we're going the whole time, thinking about the destination. And so many times I like about long journeys is that you get into that zone and it becomes quite mindful. You just become part of that journey rather than the destination. So I really enjoyed that day. It gave me a lot of reassurance, because when you listen to a lot of vlogs and reviews on the bigger adventure bikes, people have this real desire to be able to sit on a big bike, blast down the French autoroutes, let's say, get to the Alps, and do a long day in the saddle and cover those miles to get to where they're going before they're having fun. What I found on this was that I did the motorway miles and they were absolutely fine. Yeah, much better than expected, and then just hustled through the A roads and the twisties, and it was such an epic fun day through some stunning scenery, and I couldn't fault the bike at all. The other thing I was slightly concerned about was how well the tyres would behave. I've played with these Continental TKC80s a lot now, and been really impressed with them. I've not really had a fault with them, apart from they're going to wear quicker, but that's we know that. So they are wearing quicker, and I reckon we're going to get about 3,000 miles out of the rear. Hope to get about 4.5 out of the front. But the tyres are absolutely brilliant on the road. Put this bike through twisties and have a play around, and it sticks like a road bike, really surprisingly, and you get some really good lean on it, and the feel of it is just superb. It feels comfortable, it feels planted, it feels settled, and you just really play on on this bike, which I absolutely love. So in terms of the unicorn bike, I've done that journey that concerned me, and now I've done it, I feel incredibly reassured and really comfortable. And this is the bike to go and do those big adventures on. Now, I think you can go forever on this bike. I think the plus point, being a bit nerdy here, is the fuel consumption is much better. It's a smaller engine. So out of that 20 odd litre tank, I got about 250 miles. So in terms of value for money on the fuel, it's very, very good. So I'm really, really impressed with this bike, and I think that just sort of closes the door on any doubts I had about whether this could be a longer distance bike. Stunning, stunning river. There's the River Wye. It's the Wye Valley, just coming into spring. All the leaves just begin to come out. And this is one of my favourite times of years, where it's just beginning to go green. Loads of bikers out today, not surprising. Very interesting watching other people's road positionings actually. That guy on the, I think it's a Ducati, was very close to the centre line on his right hand bend, putting himself right towards oncoming traffic, which is not an ideal place to be. So yeah, loads of bikers out today. And what makes me feel good about that is that I've been riding all through the winter. A lot of these bikes will just be out for the first time this weekend. It's the first warm weekend we've had. So all these people, as I say guys, there's a lot of guys out, will be out feeling a little bit rusty, skills rusty. What's amazing when we ride through the winter, especially if we go off-road, is to get back on stuff like this where it suddenly gets dry and warm and it feels epic. It feels like a treat. The other thing I noticed on the long journey is I had the panniers on. I've got my Moscow Moto panniers and they're really heavy. I had to take all my work laptops and all those bits and pieces, and they felt really heavy to pick up, and I did wonder how the bike was going to be impaired by that. But with just me and two heavy panniers, they carry the weight down low, which really helps, and I really didn't notice it hustling through corners and going a bit quicker when I was riding a bit more spirited. I guess the only thing you do notice sometimes is on some of the longer bumps and longer undulations on the faster roads, and it may be because I've changed the rebound damping on the rear shock absorber just to cope with off-road a bit better, but you can start to feel it wallowing just a little bit. But in general, it handled being almost fully loaded incredibly well. So in summary, I think this bike is absolutely epic. I love it every time I ride it. I can't get enough of this bike. So get out there, have those mini adventures. Thanks so much for watching again, really appreciate your time, and I'd love it if you could subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers guys.